Like, and how far into the novel are you?
Just under halfway. I think like 47%. Shout out to Jason
Wait,
Kurt.
really? Oh
Yeah,
crap! How are you feeling emotionally?
torn apart.
Good. That's what a good book does. That's what the good book does.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 8 of WNBA Retrospect, our annual summer scouting series breaking down the pre-draft film of WNBA legends. Today, we'll talk about Chelsea Gray and Alyssa Thomas, who were mid to late first-round picks in the 2014 draft.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, you are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA draft and prospect scouting. I'm joined by my co-hosts M. Adler and Lincoln Shafer. M covers the W with a focus on player development in the game within the game. Lincoln also contributes to our draft coverage here at the Next and Locked On Women's Basketball. Are we going to start with Chelsea Gray, then move to Alyssa Thomas here for this episode?
Why not?
Aren't you the host?
I'm just getting some feelers from the crowd here.
Us and our 3 listeners.
Yeah.
With Chelsea's college
Shout out
career,
to Trans Guy Reacts, my favorite person on YouTube.
Shout out. In Chelsea Gray's 4 college seasons, 11.4 points, 5 assists to 2.7 turnovers, not 7.7. That'd be insane.
That's some Caitlin Clark rookie numbers.
4.4 rebounds on 47% from 2, 38.5% from 3, and 81% from the line.
And averaged 8 assists per game in her abbreviated senior season.
To be very clear, in her abbreviated upperclassmen seasons, which basically totaled 1 long season, too many games. 1 very
long
season.
season.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong stats. We're really prepared on this podcast sometimes.
Well, so
sometimes I mean all the time. I got it. Here we go. She averaged 12.6 assists. She averaged 12, 5, 6, 3.5 on I think 50% true shooting.
And when you account for
On 56% true shooting.
The Duke basketball stagflation, that's the equivalent of like 16 points and 11 assists a game.
Did you say 3 steals too?
3.5.
Yeah, 3.
Very good.
Are those
Very
good
good
stats?
at basketball.
Are those good stats? They're not quite Lindsay Whalen levels of like, oh, this is just like Caitlin Clark 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
But like Lincoln said, when you account for blue devilflation.
Yeah. She's
Blue
very good.
Blue devflation. Because it's deflation.
It's just
Devilflation?
Dukeflation. How did you not go to Dukeflation?
I wanted the DE in front of it.
There's an E in Duke.
I guess.
Chelsea Gray, very good at basketball. She just is always making things happen. She is everything, everywhere, all at once. Just making plays.
Boo.
She's so patient. That's the difference between like her freshman tape and her senior tape. As an upper class player, she's like the most patient guard I've ever watched. She's never playing at anyone else's pace.
Mm-hmm. There is a tendency I think you have with a lot of players sometimes when they are on, I don't want to say this kind of team, because like Duke in like 2012 to 2014, her upperclassmen seasons, is legitimately like an incredibly talented team. Every single starter is at least a full-time starter in the W for at least a season. They all get drafted.
top 3 team in the country for most of her senior year.
Yes, if it wasn't for the fact that UConn existed, UConn, which by the way, when you look at their roster, their starting lineup from 2013-14, their starting lineup would legitimately be favored to win a WNBA title in at least like 2 different seasons.
Yeah.
In the future.
It's absurd.
It's so goofy. If it wasn't for that, they would be like a legitimate national title contender. Instead, they get crushed by 20 points against UConn. But like, you watch that game, the second best player in that game behind pre-Achilles tier Brianna Stewart is like easily Chelsea Gray. She's absolutely destroying Bria Hartley and Steph Dolson, and it's like, oh, so this is how this goes.
There's nobody that manipulates defenses the way that she does.
No, the eye level, the playmaking, processing, the velocity, her feel for just everything is insane. And like, because of like how her like body is structured, she just kind of doesn't look as athletic as she is, but she legitimately just like, maybe not the best first step, but the last step's there. The acceleration is crazy.
The Luka Doncic.
Yeah. Shout out Mike Prada. Everything's great. I mean, she's even like stupid good at like moving without the ball when she's in like a lower usage role, like she was her freshman year when she was next to JT. Yeah, it's silly. She's just a silly fucking player. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and she's like, and her 3-point range is legitimately quite long as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to touch the rafters, but then it's going to touch the bottom of the net.
Hell yeah, Hunter. What do you think of her defense?
With her defense, I think you're just betting on like just a good processor of the game defensively and just being in the right spots. I don't see like whenever we're talking about like Jasmine Thomas level defender, like if you like whenever you're watching those Duke teams,
Yeah,
it's
she's not an 8.
Yeah, she's not like that, but like she's still like a very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when we're talking about non-traditional athleticism. Like not all athleticism is who jumps the highest, who runs the fastest, but like Chelsea Gray is like an awesome athlete because of just how she moves on the court.
Yeah, her rotational flexibility and hip mobility is really, really good, and that pops on the drive.
Yeah, she's just never in the wrong spot. Like, you can get a long way as a defender by just being in the right place, knowing where the rotations are coming from, and how to back that up and help. Like, her help instincts are very good.
Yeah, and her hands are incredible. So, like, you end up with someone who, like, you know, as a point of attack, as a chaser, just because of having to go through all those screens because of her shape, she's like a 4, maybe. Yeah, I'd say probably a 4. But, like, in terms of the help and in terms of the ability to defend in space, they're both, like, wildly impressive for someone of her offensive usage and for someone of her offensive ability, really.
And what does help her is that she's like a point guard on offense, but like being 5'11", that she can scale down a little bit. If she was 5'7", I think it's a little bit of a different situation where like that's like a really big thing for her probably. But like being 5'11",
Charlie Sledger Walker.
She's just Chris Paul.
Chris Paul was a point of attack defender.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
He was good.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I think CLW would be a good comp for that.
Old Chris Paul.
I mean, that is like that was like the crap. Who is that the comp for? Did we have that for?
We had that for somebody.
I was gonna say we. Oh yeah, literally our ceiling comps for Paige are fast Chelsea Gray and Chris Paul.
Which fast Chelsea Gray, not calling Chelsea Gray slow. It's just about how they create advantages.
Right. It's Chelsea Gray with the first step. I think is the better way to put it.
Fair.
Chelsea Gray with the first step and like being able to like hang in the air right at the rim.
Crazy. A lot of good basketball players out here.
She's also, again, with the 5'11" thing. Sometimes we've had discussion before in different contexts. You know, sometimes I think the thing that comes most to mind is like Caitlin Clark before her senior year was like, you're 5'11", 6 foot, but like you don't really use it other than to get off the shot. Like, but Chelsea's very much a plus rebounder for a guard. So you just have these things popping in different ways, and yeah. I mean, I assume we all have her as a primary ball handler. Hunter, given what you're saying about defense, I have her as a wing stop. Do I have her as a... I was a wing stopper, like maybe a helper I could see. But you guys have her.
I'd probably
Helper.
lean helper. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lean helper. Yeah.
I think I might just like her more in space than you guys do.
Fair.
Do we want to go
I
grades for?
don't feel bad about her in space.
I feel good about her in space.
Yeah.
Chelsea graced or not? No, that doesn't work.
Before we get to segment 2, what's our grade on Chelsea as a prospect?
Lincoln?
As close to an 8 as I can get without it being an 8.
I just have an
A
8.
good a 70 double plus.
I mean, I just have an 8. I think she's like a 55 defender and an 8 offensive player.
Singular offensive.
maybe.
option, Yeah.
8 offensive player, maybe a 6 defender given the position. Which, like, given you're a point guard, the offense is just way more important.
Yeah, fair.
Like she's just the best point guard prospect I've ever seen. Well, that's actually not true. Why did I say that?
2015.
Yeah.
To that point, she's like the best.
I mean,
she's-
pre 2021,
Fair.
which is like, it's sorry, Hunter, you go and then I'll make my point.
I have a 7 for her. And I think what we have to consider is that the injuries were a real thing. The injury.
Sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, a dislocated right knee is not a nothing burger.
And that's what makes
What was the
looking at her scout so hard in retrospect, because we know now she was fine.
Well, wait, what were the order the injuries came in? Was it dislocated knee and ACL, or was it ACL
The
then dislocated knee?
The ACL was first, and then at the end of her senior season is when she dislocated the kneecap.
You mean in the middle of it?
Middle of it, yeah.
Oh, right,
Like,
at the end of her
the
senior season,
Yeah.
in the middle of Duke's. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, there are concerns to be had over having both of them back to back in the way that, like, people had that over Paige. But, like, with Paige, you didn't see her hoop in between. Like, she had them very much back to back. With Chelsea, she comes back from the ACL and she's just still as good. She somehow does not lose a step. She tears her ACL. She comes back 5 games later. She's kicking UConn's ass. Like,
It's more like long-term concerns, probably.
right. Yeah. Lucas and Abby might yell at me, but, like, you know, it's the common refrain that the only really, like, notable, you know, right, indicator of future injury is previous injury.
Yeah.
So
So
what are you doing with this? It is very funny to me that, you know, you have like those like 5 all-time point guards, right? You have Sue, Waylon, Sloot, Chelsea, and Becky, and like Sue is the only one who like was not significantly undervalued as a prospect. The other ones are just like obviously, like, other than Becky, who's, you know, outlier development, the other ones are like obviously as good as they were going to be.
They're
because
all
they didn't play
just-
for UConn.
And just
they're
no
all
one
victims
noticed.
of the UConn industrial complex.
Or the ABL industrial complex. The Liz Camp Age industrial complex?
Australia is basically UConn. What could I say?
It's just the drill tweet about the racism factory.
You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free week trial for NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon at a market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. If you didn't know already, Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For segment 2, we have another all-time player in Alyssa Thomas, 17.5 points in her career at Maryland, 3.6 assists, 9.1 rebounds, but it's worth considering that in her final 2 college seasons, she averaged, around 4 to 5 assists per game? Yeah, 4.7
19
assists.
points, 10.5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Yeah.
Is that a lot? How many steals? How many blocks?
I think it's 0.6 blocks and just under 2 steals.
I say it's
3-time
not-
ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, one of 3 players to ever get that. Who were the other 2?
Liz Kitley and
We covered her last season.
last season. The ACC is a fake conference. Technically, no. I mean,
It's
future.
it's a founding member.
Right. I know. I'm just annoyed that
It's
the
Elena
ACC
Beard.
exists. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, one of these things is not like the other.
I was gonna make a Stanford joke.
Dude, Duke and Stanford play in women's soccer in like a week or so. I think I assume UNC plays Stanford in the same
Yeah.
season. I'm not prepared for it. This is not a conference game. It
It's
feels
not.
even less like a conference game in women's soccer than it does in basketball.
Cal Boston College is a conference game now.
That feels no. That feels right. That's the same energy.
That's fair. Alyssa Thomas.
Cal Louisville. That doesn't work.
Alyssa Thomas, ACC legend. This is the best lateral athlete I've ever watched play basketball.
She's so good. I was telling you this last season. We needed to do her last season. She's so good.
Like, nobody moves like that at 6'2". But also, I slight bone to pick. I was going to give Brenda Freeze props because Alyssa Thomas ran over 100 pick and rolls her senior season.
But
she's playing at the 3
yeah,
with 2 fully paint-bound centers starting next to her the entire season. With Shatori Walker-Kimbrough coming off the bench, playing 18 minutes a game, and the 3rd leading scorer on the team. Just start Shatori. Just, like, play a wing. Maybe one.
there are 3 different this is like the thing that we had like with Candace at Tennessee, where like, Candace, you can play her at 4 positions. Why'd you pick the one that you can't?
Why'd you pick
Alyssa Thomas, you can legitimately play her at 3 different positions.
Yeah.
You can play her at the 1, the 4, and the 5. Why is she at the 3? It doesn't make any sense. Why
so
is she
weird.
a cutter? I mean, she's a
They're
great
running-
cutter. Why
They're
are you
running
having
Warren sets, and she's coming and setting like flex screens. It's so weird. I don't know what to do with this. Why is Alyssa Thomas starting on the wing? It's so confusing. She never stops moving.
Brenda
She's
Freeze's
so good.
Brenda Freeze's entire legacy is built on Jasmine Thomas missing 2 free throws. Or was it Lindsay Harding?
Okay.
One of those 2. You get the point. Anyway, Hunter, talk to me about Alyssa Thomas and why I was yelling at us to do her last season.
Alyssa Thomas, downhill force, just
Absolute demon.
the way she just contorts her body at the rim, just like explosive.
It's so good.
And it's like you talked about, like the pick and roll ability, like even if it is like on the wing, also the roll ability. Like, how many prospects have we seen that can actually do both of those things? It's like Candace, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then like who else is like can do that?
Horston.
I feel like it's
like-
different though.
But like, no, obviously not to the same level. You're just saying like who can do it at like a passable level. Horston was like a 45 as
Horston-
a handler and a roller.
You just
Like
never
AT's like a
bet.
7 at both a rolling.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
cutting.
It's really just them two, and just with Candace.
She was
I'm gonna look through my notes while Lincoln goes and see if we have any other names here.
AT was compared frequently by fans to both LeBron James and Tamika Catchings during her time at Maryland.
And then she
They thought
got
she was a
drafted
3.
4th.
Yeah. You can legitimately make an argument that that's the best men's basketball player of all time and the best women's
player
basketball
of all time.
And, the thing that really kind of catches you off guard is how good her touch in the mid range is.
Oh my god!
Because we see AT, we know that she's a demon in transition, that she is a freight train that will put you on the ground, and we think about that. But her touch is so smooth. She's hitting these little lefty mid-range pull-ups.
Wait, why
She's
doesn't
like-
she have touch anymore? Did something happen?
I literally couldn't tell you. I have no idea. There's absolutely no record of any sort of injury to either of her arms or any upper body issues at all. It just disappeared.
How
But
unfortunate!
also, her handle's absurd.
It's so good. She is like legitimately almost a perfect prospect on both ends of the court, just for what you want. Obviously, like there are questions about sort of the efficiency, not in terms of the actual Gotta scroll. Not in terms of like the actual level of scoring efficiency. I mean, she has like a 54% true shooting as an upperclassman on, again, like 28% usage in these insanely terrible lineups. Like Brenda Freeze was cooking in the way that like that in the way that guy, and I think it was Utah in like the 1800s, was cooking like a poisonous anarchist soup and ended up killing the wrong bishop. Shout out to Dollop.
We're looking at point guard Lexi Brown, spot up shooter who stands in the corner and is not doing a ton, Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Jones, and another center. That's the starting lineup that Maryland is running out here, her senior season.
And then and not just her senior season, like they have like, even when I think it's Lynette Kaiser graduates in like 2012, they then were like, okay, well that paint bound center's gone. Let's put in a different one who is not going to do much.
Including the daughter of Yolanda Griffith started several games for the 2014 Maryland Terrapins.
What a weird.
Shout out to Alicia Devon.
What a weird team. But my God, I mean the processing is insane. Like in terms of it is funny that she and Chelsea Gray are in the same class, because I would legitimately say that like this is
two of the smartest basketball players ever.
Not just that, it's like maybe like the number 1 or number 2 best playmaker in through like 2020 at least, like in draft history, and like I don't know, number like 5 maybe. And the really funny thing is, I think, just given the inexplicable decision to stop being good at shooting jump shots, but with no medical indication as to why, she has a really, really good, like you're saying, it's not just the midi touch. The form is really good. The power transfer is great, and she's the rare player that we talked about this a couple of times, especially last season. You want a mid-range shooter to release at the apex of their leap, because that way it's less blockable. That way they have more time to adjust in midair. But you want someone from 3 to release just after their toes are leaving the ground to maximize the power transfer. Because that way it's just a more versatile shot, it's a longer shot, etc. And these things are almost never able to be done like regularly with any skill in the same player, because they require
Kevin Durant or Jonquel Jones.
Right, because they require almost 2 completely different methods of shooting it. This is why Holtzclaw and Moan, for the most part, until Moan was like to some extent getting coached up by Cheryl, why they were absolutely sucked in the W as 3-point shooters. AT legitimately does both. Like, I'm not projecting her to be like a plus 3-point shooter, but like she's going to
definitely get to 33% spot up.
Right. Yeah. On like 1 attempt a game. Like, I think that's a perfectly reasonable projection for her.
And 40% on pull-up mid-range shots.
Right, and this
is very much in the realm of possibility.
And this, to be clear, is all considering the fact that we haven't even mentioned her defense. Hunter, where does she rank for you all time among defensive prospects?
Put me on the spot here.
I'll say that this is one of like 3 people we've watched that I think legitimately can guard 1 through 5.
Oh, 100%.
You can start her on whoever you want, and she will defend the hell out of that player.
It's boring to break down her defensive game, because there is legitimately not a single aspect of it other than like vertical blocks. And her verticality is great, but like the vertical blocks are the only thing
I've written down in my notes. It's been a while since I did the completely nonsensical non-basketball comparison.
Oh, hell yes.
It's been like a whole series.
I know. I've been slacking this summer, but
You're never
I compared her to Luke Kuechly. This looks like an elite off-ball linebacker. Like this is like Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, the mid 2010s Panthers linebacking core. This is an elite off-ball linebacker.
Shaq Thompson erasure. She is like
on the same level.
I know. She is like 6'2", 220 or something.
Yeah.
So like she would fit.
Before we get to our
Have you given thought to my question?
I think the only player I can say for sure is a better defensive prospect is Ketch.
Yeah, I would go top 3 with Stewie and Candace. Like I have her grade broken down, like, and her motor's insane. Like we didn't even mention her motor is
Never
insane.
stops moving.
On
Yeah.
either end of the court for 40 minutes. I have her as an 8 defender and a 6 offensive player. And if you told me she was a plus, if you told me that she was going to end up in the W as a plus screener, I'd have her as a 7 offensive player.
Yeah.
I'd probably have her as an 8 overall if you told me she was a plus screener.
Yeah.
What's your actual grade though? Like without
7.
knowing. 7.
Yeah, I think it's probably a hard 7 for me.
I'm probably closer to like a soft 7 than y'all, but I'm just lower on the shot, I think. And
That's
like
fine.
projecting it to like,
Totally fair.
and I think
I told you we should have done her last summer.
what's hard about a player like
believe
AT when you're doing this like historical scout is she's such an unorthodox player that
Yeah, you have to account for the fact that everyone was stupider in 2014.
Yeah, she's kind of polarizing on draft boards because you see a lot of people that'll have her 2, and then a lot of people who just go, "What position does she play? Put her at 6." You know, like
Put her at the 6.
yeah, put her at the 6. Who knows? Like, is she played the wing in college, but she's probably not a wing. I don't know what to do with that. So then you just are like, probably not good. I don't know.
after our last ad break, we'll get into just this draft. Why did it unfold how it did? Because like we said, these are probably the 2 best prospects to come from that class. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Like I said, this draft did not age well in terms of the players that went ahead of Chelsea Gray. Chelsea went number 11. You've watched every prospect in this draft. You probably
I
watched the
read
30th
dozens
ranked
of
prospect.
articles.
The 30th ranked prospect, I think, was Megan Simmons. So yes, I did.
See, didn't you watch? She went exactly in front of
Chelsea?
Chelsea Gray. Was she like an 80?
Megan Simmons? Was Megan Simmons an 80?
No, directly in front of Chelsea
Gatling.
Markeisha Gatling.
Yeah, Markeisha Gatling's a 2.
So
Markeisha
why
Gatling
did a
is-
2 go in front of a
Okay, so
7 or 8?
So that is a job for Lincoln. My job is just to tell you who went in front of her and like why basketball wise they shouldn't have. Lincoln, do you want to go first or should I go first?
I'll go first. Chelsea Gray was in consideration for the top point guard in this draft, which would be a top 3 pick before people got scared of, the knee injuries. Recurring knee injury, very scary thing in a point guard. So
Can I
even-
specify just for a second that Morgan Tuck, who 2 years later has a condition in which she is actively losing cartilage from her knee. It is known when she enters the W that she has no more than like 5 passable seasons in her. She goes 3rd in the draft that includes Jonquel, Ka, Courtney Williams.
She went to UConn. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, not a point guard.
That doesn't make it better. That makes it worse.
It's
But,
because she went to UConn. Injuries don't matter.
even given all of the injuries and the other issues, there were still places that were putting mock drafts out the day of the draft that had Chelsea Gray going 4, 5, 6, 7. So she's still consensus a top 5 most talented player in this class, even with the missing a whole season due to knee injury, and ends up falling to 10. And everyone immediately goes, or 11 and 11. And everyone immediately goes, this is the steal of the draft. This is one of the most talented players in this draft. She's going to sit out a year, and then she's going to be very good.
So for some context on her W career, yeah, that's correct. that is exactly what happens. She plays not quite sparingly, but not extensively in her real rookie season in Connecticut, and then she's no longer in Connecticut for reasons that history has never determined, and I'm sure were a wildly unsuccessful trade that Connecticut got nothing in return for. We'll talk about that next week. Yeah, I mean, she looks like she could be freaking awesome in her first season back at the W. She's, this is what we like to call sort of the post like NECA era. So this is the era where prospects have to adjust to the speed of the league, and it takes you more than a season. She ends up in LA, and her technical rookie season is 2015. So by 2017, she's like the best sixth player in the league. 2019, she's having one of the best point guard seasons of all time. Currently in Vegas, she has had, I think, 3 of the best point guard seasons of all time there. She's inarguably a top 20. She is inarguably a top like 18, 17 player of all time at this point. And so she's pretty good at hoop. I'll give context to AT in a minute, but the players that go ahead of her. Lincoln, do you want to read off real quick the order that players go in this draft?
Yeah, number 1 overall, Chiney Ogwumike. Number 2 overall, Odyssey Sims. 3 is Kayla McBride. 4 is Alyssa Thomas. 5, Natasha Howard. 6, Stephanie Dolson. 7, Bria Hartley. 8, Shoni Shamel. 9, Natalie Achanwa. 10, Markeisha Gatling. 11, Chelsea Gray. And 12, Trisha Liston. So Duke got 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting part for me is how Connecticut just A+ this draft.
In the wrong order! No, they picked the 3 best players in this. Well, not the 3 best players, but they picked the 3 best prospects in this draft, and they picked them backwards.
But the interesting part is, what we have to consider here is they traded for.
That is true.
The Chelsea Gray pick.
This 4th pick draft day was the Tina Charles trade.
Yes.
That got them the pick that became Alyssa Thomas at number 4. That was going to be a Liberty pick.
They also traded for the pick to select Chelsea Gray as well.
Yes. If you want to be funny about if you want to be especially funny about the context here of that trade, and I will get to the second, but the AT trade is even funnier, I think, in hindsight, in like a really stupid way. But Lincoln, you just read off the order. It goes Shanae, Sims, K-Mac, AT, Natasha Howard, Steph Dolson, Bria Hartley, Shoni Schimmel, Natalie Chama, Markeisha Gatling, Chelsea Gray. The order that I have these prospects in: Chelsea's an 8, AT's a 7. Well, we agreed Chelsea's like a hard 7. AT's a 7. Shanae I have as like a project 5. K-Mac's a 45. Natasha Howard's a project 45. Steph, and then we have a bunch of 4s. Steph Dolson, Odyssey Sims, Bria Hartley, Natalie Chanwa, Markeisha Gatling's a 2. You will notice that's not the order they get drafted. That's extremely different than the order they get drafted in. This is
Everyone loves a rebounder.
This is one of the stupidest draft orders I've ever seen, and like we know why Odyssey Sims goes 3 instead of she should have gone 7. We know why she goes
29 points per game as a senior.
Yeah,
on like 26 shooting possessions a game.
Yeah, I think we would all very easily agree that Shanae is like obviously the 3rd best player in this, 3rd best prospect in this draft, and she goes 1 for obvious reason, which is Stanford just keeps feeding her, and she's a good finisher against a Pac-12 lineup that included genuinely 0 good post. I'm not even kidding. She does not play a single player who becomes a decent W player in conference play. Do you want to play the war game?
Oh boy!
Because I don't think this pod is long enough already.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to play the war game today.
Okay, fine. No war game.
It's scary. I'm going to guess that Alyssa Thomas has a lot of war and Chelsea Gray has a lot of war and very little other people in this draft have a lot of war.
Let's separate it by lottery and non-lottery.
Okay.
AT ends up with 27 wins. Coming into this season, she's at 27 wins above replacement. For reference, that's about 2 All-WC. That's about 2 Pro Bowl. They don't call it that here. Seasons shy of Sloot. That's basically a couple seasons shy of Rebecca Brunson. That's around the same level as Penny Taylor and Lindsay Whalen. You get the point. Goodbye, Hunter. The
internet went out.
Oh crap! Not again. Podcasting is, of course, a visual medium. So Lincoln, she ends up, like I said, with that much more. It's 27 wins above replacement. How much do Shanae, Sims, and K-Mac combine for? Is it greater than or less than? More or less?
Less.
It's more by 3 wins. By only 3 wins. You have 3 players who are still active. Well, Shanae was active through last season.
Yeah.
And they still did not and they still combined for only like 2 more wins. The highest they get is K-Mac is at 17, which is just over half.
Yeah, K-Mac, good player.
I'm not going to make you guess for Chelsea because there's too many players. Chelsea gets 30 wins above replacement, which is the 3rd highest of anyone we've talked about on this series. And, of course, she's still active. Natasha Howard gets 2/3 of the way there with 20 wins above replacement. No one else cracks 10.
Fascinating.
So this was obviously, I think, like the stupidest draft of all time in terms of the order the players went in the draft at the time, and in hindsight, yeah, it's really dumb. Also, K-Mac is really interesting as like an outlier development in terms of the 3-point shot, because she took basically double the volume of threes immediately upon getting to the W that she ever did at Notre Dame.
Yeah, what's
Weird.
up with that, Muffet?
Muffet will pay for her crimes.
Well,
Thanks for making Love's Basketball your first listen every day. Join the team at the next bat next for continued coverage of women's basketball. Make your second listen Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.
Wait, Hunter. Who are we doing next week?
Who are we doing next week? I didn't
who are
look
we
at the
doing
doc. Let me check.
Lincoln, do you remember?
Jonquil
no
Jones.
idea. Oh, yeah,
And
Kalia Copper.
so everyone here, I hope
2016 draft.
everyone here is really excited to hear some Rachel Benham and Aerial Power Scout.
We got to watch Georgetown and Rutgers.
Ooh.
Michigan
rough.
State and Minnesota.
Let's go.
Oh, no.
So you're going to have to watch Aerial Powers tape.
2014 Big Ten Network broadcast. Here we come.